Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back again with, I believe, the second anime movie that we've talked about this
the second
semester.
one.
Right?
Yep. Because, last semester we did Perfect Blue, and now today we are doing Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, and I'm not a very anime-inclined person. It's not my cup of tea usually, but I do appreciate animation as a medium. So figured I'd check it out, see what's going on. I didn't choose it, so I kind of had to watch it. Griffin, you want to talk a little bit about why you chose it?
Sure. So last year, I remember you and Cam had done Spirited Away, and the same studio that did that movie, Studio Ghibli, they also did this movie, Grave of the Fireflies. So I figured, I know this one was kind of like one of their more popular ones, along with Spirited Away, so I thought it would be a good choice for the podcast, just do another anime movie for the semester.
The film's plot is, what's the description for it? It's
Incredibly depressing.
Yeah, that too. It's like historical fiction. I think is the label that you would give it. But basically, it follows 14-year-old Seita and his 4-year-old sister Setsuko struggling to survive in Japan as World War II gets closer to an end. And it's just kind of following their journey after their mom is killed and then their dad's off MIA during the war.
Yeah.
So just kind of following their journey and experiences. What do you think about this movie?
Oh man. Well, I think a lot of things about this movie, but I guess this kind of start off you kind of need a tough stomach to be able to really watch this film, because it gets pretty sad in the last half, I'd say. I mean, even in the first part, so the film's not gonna have a happy ending, because the film literally starts out being September 1945 is the day I died, and it was just I'm oh, that's incredibly promising for an opening.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's just incredibly sad movie that just kind of shows the horrors of war and what it was kind of like to be just a civilian in a war.
Something I found interesting is I don't really know much about how the Japanese experience of World War II went, right? Because in just being American, that's not a thing that they teach you as much, right? It's mainly American history focused and based. But the firebomb impacts that they drop on the cities and the villages that end up resulting in some of the nastiest burns, and it's hard and easy to get gore across in animation, because on one hand you have the benefit of vibrance where you can really choose and pick what kind of colors you want to use, and in live action it's harder to get that to balance out just right. It's very, very, very hard to look at the burned people in this. Granted, it's mainly just the mom, but still a very vivid, striking image that's held up.
And usually there's two kinds of blood and gore in anime. Usually it's either very exaggerated or over the top, like a sword slice and gushes of blood or whatever. And then you have something like Grave of the Fireflies, where it's as you said, it's looks like a burn, and it's just it's just not a easy sight to look at.
Yeah, and I think that goes to highlight how well the animation in this is done. I don't think I've seen a single anime movie that I've watched for this specifically that I've really disliked for anything, as far as I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't think I've had any problems with any of them, and there's no exception here, right, where it's very realistic and brutal, and I kind of forget that it's even an animated medium, and I think that's something that's a high barrier for entry for a lot of people, where it's oh, it's animated, that's for kids or something, right?
Right.
And that's not necessarily always the case. Animation has its own space to work medium-wise. I know, because I'm nerdy, comic books always work best adaptation-wise in animation for the most part. There are exceptions, but for the most part, it's an easy way to adapt that.
Shout out to the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. But Yeah, I think that barrier for entry kind of limits people. It's similar to, I can't remember the director's name, but he said something very similar about subtitles, where he's like, once you can start just ignoring the subtitles and reading them,
Yeah,
you'll be introduced to a whole plethora of films. And I think animation's a similar approach.
I have heard that quote before. I just forget who says it.
Yeah.
And kind of diving into a separate point here, but like this was made by Studio Ghibli, like I said, and like typically a lot of of their movies are not like this at all. Like this is probably like their most like graphic movie easily out of any of them. Yeah, because I've watched a good share of like of Ghibli movies, but like none of them have like come close to being like as graphic or as like realistic as Grave of the Fireflies has been.
Mm. Even with it being an animated medium, the composition in this for the frames that they chose to then animate is very well done. There's just a lot of variety between direct addresses, your stereotypical rule of thirds, leading lines, the composition of just the general stuff, but then you get some of those fancier shots where it's a little more fluid as motion's going on, and it adds a little bit of flair to it, but also not going too over the top to where it feels like a hype edit or anything, right. Which is much appreciated. And I think going hand in hand with that, whenever you get to those harrowing moments, or if you're in those heightened moments, the use of music, choosing when and when not to play the score, is very strong. I know the opening, whenever their village first gets attacked, is pretty well silent, and you're just kind of watching as the fire, they're not really fire bombs, they're like a missile warhead that launches incendiary rounds. That's a terrible way to explain that. I don't know what the right term for it would be.
I wouldn't know either, but I just called them bombs. But
yeah, but these fire bombs or whatever, whenever they hit the ground and just nothing happens, there's no score or anything. It's just dead silent as the kids are looking around trying to figure out what's going on, what to do, where to go, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's like, in scenes like those, you don't really need a score to kind of like emphasize like just how dramatic and dire the situation is. It's like when Seda and Setsuko are like, running through the neighborhood or like trying to find shelter or like going into a bomb shelter. It's just like, it's very like, the animation just kind of takes that over. And like overall, the animation really well done for the movie. I got no problems with it at all. And like, yeah, with that, like you don't need like a score for like every single scene. Cause like sometimes it's just like the dialogue alone or just the animation alone can carry like the right emotion through the scene.
Yeah, I think animation is the main thing in animated films, obviously, that's part of the challenge to make you feel like it's immersive enough or captivating. Yeah. The other half of the struggle is voice acting. And I gotta be honest, I'm not like moved by the voice acting. It's just all right. It's nothing disappointing. It's nothing exciting for me personally. Yeah. It's just pretty. It is.
It's good for what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be like over the top or anything. One question I do have for you: did you watch this with the Japanese or the English?
Japanese.
Japanese. Okay, me too. I've never heard the English for this one, so I can't really speak to that. But I think for the Japanese voice actors, like I think they did a pretty good job. Again, like nothing that really needs to be over the top with anything, but I think just overall they did good.
Yeah, I agree. Like they did good, but I'm not feeling like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen, or oh my God, this was dog water. You know, I don't have any strong feelings on it.
Over the top or anything like that.
Yeah, and weirdly, on a narrative structure, the film does pay off its start, because the start just saying, hey, I die today, is a bold start, and then it, the ending pays that off. But I'm not really moved by the emotion in it. Like, fundamentally, it's still a great movie. I'm just not emotionally moved by the spoiler, obviously. Um, there's a montage whenever Setsuko starts getting so malnourished that she eventually dies, right?
Yeah.
And then after she's gone, they play a montage of her running around this little cave that her and her brother moved to. And I don't feel anything from it. And I appreciate that the way that the music works in tandem with that. I can understand what it's meant to make you feel. And I know for audiences it will. It just didn't hit me.
Damn, brother has no heart at all. Goddamn.
Sorry.
I mean, during that scene, I think I had like the absolute opposite reaction. I was tearing up a little bit at that because it was just like his sister like just died and she was so young. It's like, how do you not feel sad about that?
Like, fundamentally, it just is sad.
Right,
Like, there's
like-
no debate. I'm like, this is actually the most funny thing I've ever seen. No one's making that argument.
Right,
If you
no.
do, I'm sorry, your opinion's just wrong. But, like, sadness-wise, yeah, it's sad. But I don't feel hit in my chest or anything. I don't feel moved.
All right, I heavily disagree with that, but hey, at the same time, not my opinion. So, all right, you didn't find the ending sad. I guess I have a new op now.
Yeah, which is also weird because I do think the movie's great, which is weird because for me to not feel anything, the rating is going to look really high when we get there. It's just, it does everything else that it needs to do right and well. It's just, there's an emotional impact missing for me. And that's not enough to detract a huge amount. I think it would have detracted more if not one, just the same point, but if the narrative structure of it didn't pay off and I didn't feel any emotional contact, then I would have had a much stronger problem with it because
Right.
then just straight up, it's not working for me. It does work. Like, I know what it's trying to do and I can recognize how it's doing it. And that to me is why it's great. It's just on a feeling, personal, subjective level, it's not hitting anything.
Mm-hmm. So your main point basically is like on a fundamental level, yes, it's sad. Like obviously, like Setsuko dying is sad, but like there's the emotional part of it just didn't really hit that strong for you.
Yeah, it's just didn't phase.
It's just like,
Didn't phase.
It's just like, oh, this happened, and then that was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
This kind of ends up transitioning into the deep thought a little bit, but I don't know if we're ready for all that yet. I feel like you might have more to talk about.
Not. I do have another point I would like to dive into.
Let's hear it.
So it's kind of like, I don't know if this is actually your deep thought question or not, but like Grave of the Fireflies, like it shows two children who are like trying to just survive, and like they got all the bombings coming for them, and then they're facing like malnutrition and like other like hardships as well. It's like it does a really good job with like showing the real toll of war on young minds too, because like obviously like even though Seda is like trying to keep like a happy face on for his sister, it's just like for the most part, like, yeah, no, he can keep like a positive attitude on for her, but like even then he has like moments where he just like breaks and cries and like which kind of goes to show like even if you're trying to like put on that mask like, oh yeah, no, everything's fine, like my guy, no, you're in the middle of the war, it's just like everything's not fine. And so like at one point in the film too, they're both living with their aunt, but like they get into a bunch of quarrels and disagreements about like food rations, and that's where they end up moving out into that I think it's like an abandoned shelter, or it's a cave, or
They call it a cave, but it really isn't. It's more of not a causeway, but like a tunnel.
yeah, it's like a got like two entryways and then there's like a big room in it. It's just like, for the sake of discussion, we'll just call it a cave. So then obviously it's like as they're in the cave, like that's kind of the turning point for like when they begin to like develop malnutrition and all that. Which kind of leads into the big question, like overall, is the movie more anti-war? Like, because there's definitely themes of like two children trying to survive in a war, but like at the same time too, once they move out, that's kind of the point where they start to like die, for lack of a better word. But so like is the movie more anti-war or is it more anti-isolation?
That's a good
'Cause I
question.
think
That is
there's
not what my deep thought was, but
because I think there's definitely a case to be made for both answers, but like if you kind of had to pick like one over the other, if you need a minute.
it's hard to answer because the anti-war themes are not so overbearing. You have to look for them a little bit. But then the anti-isolation thing, I think, makes a little more sense just because of the way the plot unfolds. But at the same time, both of them, well, mainly, what's the name? Seta. Mainly Seta finds a way to continually be resourceful. So it doesn't feel like an anti-isolation thing as much as adaptability. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tricky one to answer.
Yeah.
What are you thinking on this?
I'm thinking probably like no, there's definitely themes of like anti-war with like, it shows like two young kids trying to just survive amidst the bombings, but at the same time too like they were like surviving just fine-ish with their aunt, but like eventually like Sato was like kind of got into more disagreements with her, so it's just kind of like it led him to like grab all of his stuff and leave and find shelter elsewhere. And like it continually shows like he is resourceful with like grabbing food, or eventually like as air raids are happening, he begins to like rob other people's houses and even gets caught by a farmer at one point. But like at the same time too, I wouldn't say he had like guaranteed safety at his aunt's house. I think like it's as subject to anyone else's house for getting like bombed or something like that. But at the same time too, like just him leaving with his sister is kind of like what led them to like not survive ultimately in the end.
Yeah, I can kind of see that because the reason Setsuko, I think Setsuko, yeah. Reason she ends up so malnourished is because he's trying everything to keep her fed. I'm pretty sure she got an infection of some sort that kind of kept her staying malnutrition or malnourished, sorry, and then causing death. But I don't know. This easily ends up transitioning right into what the deep thought was. Are we ready for that kind
Honestly,
of thing?
yeah, sure.
Okay. When the movie ends, I kind of was expecting more of like, wait a minute, I remember they said this is the last day he died. He's just kind of like still here, and now he's like overlooking a city. Let me go back and rewatch. So I go back, rewatch the start, and then see how Sato's final moments play out. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if I fully buy it. I don't know if I can see him ending up in that position. So my question to you is the way Sata's fate realistic, basically, the way that he ends up going out?
It's like the way he's just kind of like slumped against that pillar. Like,
yeah, he ends up malnourished himself, completely tired. His lips are cracked dry. All he has left to him is just his sister's ashes.
Yeah.
And then dies in the train station.
That is a good question. I think it is more than possible he could have caught like an infection from his sister or something like that. I think him being a bit older, like maybe I'm completely spitballing here, by the way. Like maybe his immune system was stronger and he was able to hold out for a little bit of extra time. Because I think his sister dies like right when the war ends or shortly after. Or is like,
I'm pretty sure the war is still ongoing when she died, though, because the guy in the train station, whenever he dies, or whenever Seta dies, mentions something along the lines of, we can't have these here when the Americans come, which means the Americans are on the ground in Japan, which doesn't happen until closer to the end of the war, if I recall correctly. So I think the sister dies during the war still.
during the war. Okay. I think then Seda, like, I mean, even after a war, like, there's still gonna be like things aren't gonna like change overnight. There's not gonna be like abundant food supplies that are growing, or like you can't recover from like the bombings like that soon after like a country surrenders. So I think there is a case to say that like maybe he did die of malnourishment, or like ultimately like he did just succumb to like whatever infection his sister might have passed on, if that happened at all. Like to somehow end up in the train station just kind of slumped over seems a tad bit like, how did he make his way there? I think it would have been a bit more realistic if he had just like maybe passed away like closer like to the cave or something like that, instead of just like a random train station.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I can buy it. It's mainly because of what he does at his aunt's, right, where he figures out, okay, mom had, I think he said like $7,000 yen in the account ready to go, and how he accessed it at 14 in and of itself is questionable. But putting that aside, whenever his aunt is like, oh, if you have such a problem and you're so hungry with my rice rations or whatever, you can just get your own, or perhaps we should eat separate if you're going to be so hungry or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then he just straight up goes out, buys a new furnace, and starts making her own food, and then like makes the aunt jealous, right? He knows how to be resourceful. Then when they're at the cave, yes, it's a far walk to go back and forth between the cave and town to get resources and all that, but he knows how to cook while he's there. He knows how to shop and get the food. He's starting to make that place a home, right? And do all of these things to survive, basically.
Right.
So to go from all of that to just dying alone in a train station, malnourished with no resources, feels odd and kind of quick. I understand that there's probably some sort of time passage there, and if that 7,000 yen run out at some point, then yeah, I can see how he gets there kind of quick because he has no more money to keep paying for the resources or anything. But he's 14. Get a job. So I don't know. Maybe that's harsh on me, but I don't know.
After a war, yeah, probably a little bit.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't fully buy it. I think he's too, because we also see him try to steal stuff as well during raids to keep surviving. So I don't know. It doesn't click with me, I don't think.
I guess maybe after the war, like maybe he didn't get the opportunity to like rob people's homes, because like people's homes were either destroyed or like people were starting to live in them again, thus making it like harder to rob in the first place. And then like I guess he only has like a finite amount of money, so it's just like that 7,000 yen would have run out eventually for food. As for the job part, like I don't know, I guess bro didn't want to get employed or something, but no, that part was a joke. But maybe it's just like hard to find a job like immediately after the war, and like maybe the country didn't really have the money to supplement something or other, but just kind of ending up in that scenario in the train station. I guess, yeah, there's some arguments being made that like it isn't that realistic, but I don't know. There could have been a lot of different elements to.
Yeah, I can still see how he gets up there or gets to that point structurally. Just it feels a little odd to me, and I can't fully buy into it. Yeah. I don't really have many other notes on this. Anything you want to talk about before we get into some ratings?
Don't think so, no.
Alrighty, well then, Griffin.
Well, actually, I do have one question.
What's up?
Why do fireflies have to die so soon?
Is it either going to be a genuine joke or a genuine question, or like the worst knock-knock joke you've ever heard? Say it one more time.
Why do fireflies have to die so soon? It's a quote from the movie.
I don't know.
Oh, I guess they got short lifespans, but
sorry.
Thank you.
So Griffin, What are we thinking about rating wise for
Rating wise,
the movie here?
Rating wise, I think I would almost be compelled to give this a 5 out of 5. Don't think I can quite give it that because one, it's just like the overall tone of the movie. It's just like I feel like I can't just like slap a 5 out of 5. Like, oh yeah, absolute cinema. Like, it's still got like a really dark message, and like it's just one of those movies. Just like I would never watch again. But overall, I was still basically blown away by this movie. So I think overall, I'll give it 4.5 out of 5.
Whoa, that cut out.
Okay, wow.
There we go. Yeah, understandable. I said earlier it's gonna not make a lot of sense my rating, but it is kind of on the high end still. I am gonna give it a 4 out of 5 for me. I know that it's on a high end based on what I said, but you got to remember, acting wise, for me it's mid. I don't have a preference on it one way or another. It just is what it is, so it doesn't count for anything. It just exists. Animation, the composition, the colors, and the score, and the way that they're using music and not using music, all brilliant stuff. And then it really just comes down to, I don't know if I can fully buy the narrative structure to get to a point where Seda dies. And also, I don't know, well, I do know the emotional impact I'm supposed to feel for Setsuko just doesn't click. Like, narrative wise, I can see exactly how it's meant to fulfill everything that it needs to, and for certain audiences it 100% will, and I think for you it reached those points, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just missing that emotional component from everything. Structurally, I just know, I can see how it works, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's okay, Luke. You can admit you don't have a heart.
Cut back to that. Well, that'll wrap it up for this week's episode of Two Dudes, I think. For the time being, I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we will see you next week with, is it a guest week?
With a guest, yes.
It is a guest week, it is. Any teases, perhaps?
Any teases? They are a returning guest.
All right, returning guests. We love returning guests. So, if you're into that, I'll see you next week. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
Bye.
Bye.